Good evening and welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax TV. For those of you who have discovered us for the very first time, allow me to introduce myself. I am your liberty-loving Latino. Do not confuse me with loudmouth leftist Latinos out there. I actually love my country, the United States of America. How many of you are familiar with the Star Wars franchise? It's a series of 9 movies and tons of spin-offs, and we're told a story of an evil empire and the rebels who are struggling to restore freedom and liberty to a galaxy far, far away. The saga even comes complete with a doddering old head of state who appears to be a moderate fool on the outside, but who is actually an evil bringer of chaos, lawlessness, corruption, and war. Sound familiar? In 5 months, Biden inspires open rebellion. We detail the inevitable result of tyrannical government in tonight's preamble. In a speech on the Senate floor, Texas Senator Ted Cruz detailed the horrors our nation has endured in just the last 5 months.
And in these 5 months, we've seen crisis after crisis after crisis. We've experienced a gas crisis where we had gas lines and skyrocketing energy prices. We're on the verge of an inflation crisis. We've already had a war in the Middle East. And we've got a border crisis that has been raging so intensely that we're on pace to see 2 million illegal immigrants come through our unsecured border this year.
Indeed, our nation has already been through more turmoil in 5 months than the entirety of President Trump's first term. There was no greater example of this upheaval than the multiple crises of the southern border. Because of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the entirety of the socialist Democrats who rule Washington, our people have endured a nightmare, enduring a nightmare. Biden has ushered in a national security crisis, a public health crisis, and a humanitarian crisis all rolled into one. Crime is off the charts in left-wing cities all over this country, and Americans are watching our civilized society waste away under uncaring and irresponsible left-wing elected officials. Now, in case you're tempted to believe that these events are due to the stupidity and vacuousness from socialists and their voters, let me dissuade you from that right now. Nobody can be this stupid. Nobody can unleash so much suffering, waste, and destruction in 5 short months on accident. Folks, this is intentional. It is a matter of historic record that the states created the federal government, not the other way around. And upon seeing our nation descend into the tumult and chaos that is harming our citizens, the states are rising up in rebellion to that lawlessness. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced last Friday on the Chris Salcedo Radio Show that Texas would not only finish President Trump's border wall, but would construct another series of barriers.
One's going to be one on the immediate border, the river's edge, and part of this will be on state land, part of it will be on private property land. So last night I met with hundreds of private property owners who have land on the border, and I asked, who would be willing to have this done? And I asked for a show of hands, and there were too many hands for me to be able to count about people who wanted to have this done. And then on top of that, I announced that this coming week I will be announcing the Texas plan to build the border wall.
And after putting down a payment of $250 million yesterday, Governor Abbott made this announcement.
We know that temporary barriers and fences won't be enough to slow the flow of the record amount of illegal immigration that's taken place. That's why today we are announcing that Texas will build a border wall in our state to help secure our border.
Now, just in case you're screaming at your TV saying, that's unfair, simply because Biden refuses to enforce immigration law shouldn't mean that the people of Texas should bear the tax burden of building that wall. Well, the governor of Texas has an answer for that, too. Last Friday, I asked him, can Americans who still believe in the rule of law help Texas build the wall by sending money to that effort? Here's what he told me.
The short answer is yes, but there's multiple steps we have to go through in the planning stage to formally roll this out. And I knew that once we announced this, we would the floodgates would be open to people across the United States who wanted to provide funding for this. And so we are in the process of setting up a state account that can receive money for purposes of putting it toward building the wall.
But it isn't just Texas rising up to defend our citizens who have been abandoned by Biden and his socialists in Washington. The state of Texas has entered into a mutual aid pact with the border state of Arizona. Governor Ducey will be defending his citizens from the multiple border crises Biden and his party have unleashed on his people. Since Biden has turned our fine men and women of the Border Patrol into taxpayer-funded Uber drivers and babysitters, Governors Ducey and Abbott put out a plea to all of the other states to send law enforcement to guard the Texas and Arizona borders. And the first state has responded.
Today, we're here to announce that the state of Florida is answering the call. Florida is going to support Texas and Arizona. We believe that securing the southern border is important for our country, but specifically we believe it'll benefit the people of Florida to be able to get this under control. And so where the federal government has failed, the states are stepping up.
That's right. The state of Florida is joining Texas and Arizona to protect our people and maintain the rule of law at the border. In case you're wondering why a non-border state would be invested in stopping the lawlessness of the southern border, DeSantis revealed how
Raped by a criminal illegal alien, 82 years old. I mean, how disgusting.
3 states have risen up to defend America's border after Biden and his cronies have abandoned the border and the safety and security of this nation. How many other states are going to join in and send officers to enforce the law? How many citizens will dig deep into their pockets to finish the wall in Texas, the longest shared border with Mexico? And how will border state politics change after conservatives and Republicans rescue our citizens from the utter destruction unleashed by Biden, Pelosi, and Schumer? Now, I may have an indication about that. Liberty-loving Latinos have been awakening in Texas. Not only did they appreciate the freedom and prosperity under President Trump, they've all been witness to their neighborhoods being destroyed as Biden and socialists like AOC and Bernie Sanders have turned over control of border towns to narco-terrorists. Hispanics are causing many Democrat observers to say, I got a bad feeling about this. In Zapata County, Texas, a county which is nearly 95% Latino, they voted for Hillary Clinton by a 33-point margin in 2016. In November of 2020, Trump won Zapata County by 5 points, the first GOP victory there since 1920. 4 other South Texas counties, which are majority Latino, LaSalle, Jim Wells, Kennedy, and Kleberg, also flipped from Clinton to President Trump. As socialist Democrats show their hatred for our Constitution, the rule of law, and our country, as they show their hatred for our people, an awakening is occurring. It's an awakening that the biased press can't hide. Despite the left-wing media's best efforts, the American people, blacks, Latinos, whites, and Asians, they're starting to connect their misery to the socialist Democrat policies that are causing that misery. Let's give credit where credit is due. This sea change wouldn't be happening if Biden were halfway competent and had the stamina to stand against the anti-American elements who are making policy in his backward administration. And because of their extremism, I expect more states will rebel against the lawlessness that is harming so many Americans. To those Americans, I say, welcome to the rebellion, and may God and the force be with you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.